Hi Cherokee Trail seniors and parents and guardians. This is a video to walk you through the process of applying to a 4-year college or university. We will have more resources coming out about 2-year colleges, community colleges, gap year, joining the workforce, military, but this one is specifically for 4-year colleges, simply because the process takes a little bit longer and usually starts quite a bit earlier. So let's get started. Everything you're going to need is located in the Schoology folder titled CTHS Counseling Class of 2021. So I'm going to log in to my Cherry Creek, and from there I'm going to find my Schoology account, which is right here. I think our students are pretty good at navigating and finding that now. So we're going to go into Schoology, and once you're there, from the home page, you are then going to choose Courses. The course looks like this right here, CTHS Counseling Class of 2021. However, if it doesn't pop up on your homepage of main courses, you may need to click here into My Courses and find it in your list. So going back to that, if you do not have access to that class right now, so it's possible that you're a new student or transferred from a different school, whatever it may be, the join code is right here. So you're going to go to Join Courses in Schoology and type in this access code of WZ2DB-ZC9WJ. So that is the code that you will type in to access this course if you are not already in it. Once you are here, your screen will look a little bit different than mine because you won't see some things that I have unpublished right now, but you'll see all the different content that we've been working on way back since you were in 9th grade. And where you want to start is in ICAP 401. Hooray, you made it to senior year and you're in ICAP 401. So before we get into the main folder about applying to college, there are a few things that I want to just walk you through, starting here with the senior year checklist. And I'll let you read through that on your own. Then from there, if you are not following us on social media, we share a lot of things through social media, particularly Twitter, but now have an Instagram page that we are starting to use as well. And then from there is the post-secondary planning worksheet. And we are going to refer to this often throughout our college application workshop. This really is an important tool to help keep you organized. Students should already have a copy of this in their Google folders or Google accounts. We've been working with this since last year, for some of you potentially even since 10th grade. It's been modified here or there, but hopefully you've been using this or another tool to keep you organized. We're not going to really go over it right now because we've already done that with you, but just want students and parents and guardians who maybe haven't been accessing it to know that it's there. So once we are back in our ICAP 401 folder, from there, you are going to go into the Applying to a 4-year college. And these other folders that you can see on my screen, they're not published for you right now, but if you're checking out some other pathways beyond a 4-year college, those will be published soon once school starts. And we will also have either a classroom lesson or a virtual lesson, depending on how we're meeting, to walk you through some of the different options if you're still deciding. The senior conference is also a great option to use. That's a one-on-one conference that you'll have with your counselor where you can talk through what your plans are for after high school. So once you are in this folder, you will see there is then a second folder titled Virtual Resources for Applying to a 4-Year College, Class of 2021. So we're going to click on this. And it's really up to you how you navigate through this. Some students and families may want to go through every single piece of it and make sure they're getting all of the information. Other students and families may be okay just looking at certain pieces. There are some that we are requiring all of our seniors who are applying to a four-year college to make sure you are going through and reading thoroughly. And I'm going to walk you through that. You will see there is significantly more information here than we have provided for senior classes in the past. And that is because we are in the middle of a pandemic and we want to be able to seamlessly transition from meeting with you in person to meeting virtually, or if we're attending school remotely, so that you have access to this on your own and can access it at your own time. So as I scroll through, some of these I'm going to open up, but I just want to scroll through so you can see what exactly is on here. Starting with the college application checklist, we will go through that. The college comparison tool is just another option that you can use along with that planning worksheet. Every single student applying to a four-year college must go through this folder here titled Setting Up Your Naviance Account to Apply to College. There's a video that's going to walk you through mandatory things you must do in order to be able to request a transcript. If you are applying to any schools via the Common Application, then you must also go through this folder and follow along with the videos, including matching your account to Naviance. We cannot submit transcripts if the steps in this folder are not completed. Sending ACT or SAT scores is a resource for you. As you hopefully know by now, several colleges and universities across the nation have moved to a test optional policy for college applications. What this means is if you have ACT or SAT or ACT scores, you may send them. However, most of the tests have been canceled. Our seniors do have an ACT test from February, but it's possible that that may not be the score that you are most capable of. So just because you have it does not mean you have to send it. And you will see a little bit later where we have a link to fairtest.org, and that's a great website where you can research any schools that are test optional. Continuing on, every single senior applying to college must go through and read everything in this application here. This is where you're going to get information about how to request a letter of recommendation, a secondary school report if you're applying via the Common Application, or a transcript. You must complete a lot of different things prior to requesting many of those, which includes making sure that you even need them. And we'll get into that more a little bit later when we look at that folder, but know that that is one of the folders that's mandatory for you to go through and check out. And then from here, it's a lot of more optional resources that we have. We have financial aid and scholarships, and we'll continue to build on this as the year progresses. We have different resources for writing an essay, and we have resources for students from diverse backgrounds, and you'll see listed right here what those backgrounds are. So if you belong to any one of these or multiple of these groups, there'll be different resources. This is something else that we'll continue to build throughout the year. If you jump right into it, you'll see that we're still building some of these out, but we'll share those resources as best we can through that folder. And then you'll see resources specific to COVID-19 and then virtual college fairs. Most likely all college fairs and mini college campus visits will be virtual this year, so as we receive more and more information, we will include that there. So as we continue on, I'm going to walk you through some of these mandatory folders just so you can see what they look like and then watch different things and go through things on your own time. So starting with the college application checklist, you will see this is quite a bit longer than our senior year checklist, just because the process of applying to college is a bit longer and more labor intensive than some of our other pathways. So I will let you read through this on your own. Please be aware that for the class of 2021 and the 2020 2021 school year, things are just very different, and some of it we are doing our absolute best to plan ahead and prepare, but there's other things that may change or that we're still figuring out. So this application checklist may change, and other areas of the Schoology class may change. So we really encourage you to check back often, and also keep an eye on your home feed, because we will send lots of updates to you through this class of Schoology as well as through Twitter. So the next tool we have in here is the comparison tool, and this is just if you want to take a look at some different colleges if you're still deciding on where you want to attend. This is a pretty neat tool, but you can only do up to 3 schools. So maybe you know that you want to stay in state. You can type in different schools, and when they pop up, then they will populate here with a decent amount of information. And you can compare different things across those schools. So once you have those in, you'll see that there's a series of different information that's shared. Do not always take this for face value for anything when you're looking for information on a college or university. We always recommend you go to that college or university's website. You will see here a great example. It says that for all of these schools, or for CSU and CU, that the SAT or ACT is required. Well, for this year, that's actually not correct. Those schools have gone to a test optional policy, and DU is test optional forever. They went test optional prior to COVID and will be for the foreseeable future. So maybe you want to switch one out, then you can take that out and put in a different school to continue to compare. So it's just a great tool to help you in figuring out the best fit college for you. Continuing on in Schoology, we then end up in the folder that's setting up your Naviance account, and once again, this is required before you request any transcripts. So please make sure you watch this video. It's about a 10-minute long video, and it's not the most exciting thing you will watch, but it's very important. So make sure you are watching this, and you can go ahead and set up your Naviance account right alongside it if you know what colleges you're applying to. If you're not quite sure yet, watch it now, and then you know it's here as a resource to set up later in the year when you are ready to move into that piece. And then the next folder is going to be specific to students who are applying via the Common Application. If you're not sure if your school accepts the Common Application, you can go here to this link, and there's a list where you can go and check to see. So under here, find a college, you can look at their member schools, or you can also go to your college's website itself, and under the application tab, you should be able to find out if they accept the college or not, or the Common Application or not. Now this next video, if you are applying to even just one school via the Common Application, you absolutely must watch this video and match your Naviance account to your Common App account. This has to be done prior to requesting any transcripts. If you do not do this first, then we will not be able to send your transcript. So please make sure if you're applying to Common App that you watch this video and follow the steps in it. One quick insider's tip as you're matching your Common App and your Naviance account. In the past, and sometimes it changes year by year, but most likely should work this year as well, if you match your Common App account to Naviance prior to listing your colleges in Naviance, typically it auto-populates your colleges in there. So you may want to do this prior to going in and listing all of those schools. If you've already set up all of your schools, I apologize. Either way works fine, but know that it may auto-populate once you match those schools. So continuing on, our next folder is about ACT and SAT. And once again, for the class of 2021, there's a strong chance that you either won't be taking a test or won't receive access to a test that really shows your capability and your scores. So this is for you to look through if you are planning on sending scores for any reason, but if you know that you'll be applying to college without them, then you can go ahead and skip this folder. So I'm going to go back to the main page here. And one of the very, very most important folders for you to look through are the required and supplemental elements for college applications. And this is where your post-secondary planning worksheet is going to be very important for you. You will hear us say many, many times that you must make sure that a letter of recommendation is required for your application before requesting it. And the reason for that is teachers write those letters outside of their contracted time. They're often writing it on evenings or weekends when they have time away from family, where they can get those done. They are more than happy to do it and are always excited to support you in this process, but we want to make sure that we're valuing our teachers' time and that if they're writing a letter, it's a letter that will be sent and read by a college. So it saves your time as well as teachers' time to make sure that a letter of recommendation is required. So when you go in here, you will see that there is different information, and hopefully you'll laugh a little bit when you see that we continue to have a stop sign that says you made sure you read every single piece of this and that you saw all of it before you actually request a letter of recommendation. We've moved our request process online due to the pandemic, which makes it easier for you and hopefully also easier for counselors and teachers. However, it's still important that you request this in person. Do not simply send this form on to your teacher or counselor and assume that they have then received it and will take care of your letter. As you know, people get lots of emails and things can easily be lost. And so we want to make sure that you have confirmation that that teacher or counselor can write a letter or to do a secondary school report for you if you're applying through the Common Application. Not to mention, it's really common courtesy to make sure you're having that conversation in person. And for the 2020-2021 school year, in person can mean a lot of different ways. It can be over a Teams meeting, it can be over virtual office hours, it can be actually in person after class or during an off period. And if it has to be, it can even be via email, but make sure you receive an email back from the teacher or counselor saying that they received it and are in a position to write that letter for you. So with this process, you will see that this is going to take you to a Google Doc where you're going to click Make a Copy. And we recommend that you then save that to your Google Drive. Once you have this in here, go ahead and change this to your last name so that way your teachers and counselors can keep track of it. And you'll see that we ask you over and over again to make sure that you definitely need a letter of recommendation, be it from a counselor or from a teacher. In most cases, you may only need a teacher, or you might just need a secondary school report from a counselor for a Common Application. Very important for both your counselors and your teachers, you should be giving 4 weeks prior notice to the transcript request deadline. So how you're going to do this is starting with your college application deadline. So let's say that deadline is December 1st. We then set deadlines for transcript requests, and at this point we don't have those deadlines set yet, but those will be published very soon here. Usually it's about 2 weeks prior to the transcript request, to the college deadline. However, we have to account for school breaks and things like that. So the December 1 deadline is actually closer to something like November 4th. So let's say your transcript request deadline is November 4th. You're then going to count back 4 weeks from that to allow enough time for your teacher to write a letter of recommendation prior to your need to request that transcript. If your teacher letters of recommendation are not in Naviance when you request a transcript, we cannot send your transcripts at that point. And so it's very, very important that you're following this process of counting 4 weeks prior. So once you have gone through and made sure everything's good to go, you're just going to start to fill out this form. And I won't go through all of it, but you'll see that you can type in information here. This doesn't have to be your Cherry Creek email address. That's going to be whichever email you prefer that you're going to check. And you'll continue to go through. And then you'll see we have a section here where it says the college name. Are you applying via the Common Application? Because there's an extra step if you are that teachers need to complete. And then it's another check to make sure it is required, and we ask that you actually provide a link showing where it's required. Reason for that is sometimes teachers or counselors want to go to the college website and make sure they have all the information. And so to show you what that looks like from here, when you are at a college's website and going through and organizing yourself using that planning workshop to make sure worksheet to make sure that you have everything, you will see where it lists right here the different things you need. So they have a checklist, and right there is where CU Boulder lists one academic letter. Typically when it says academic, they prefer a teacher. In some cases that can be a counselor as well. So that's what you're going to submit a link to when requesting that. So once you have filled out this table here, you're going to then go through and just answer some questions that help your teacher or counselor to really write the best letter possible for you. Once you have completed this form, you should then have decided with your teacher or counselor when you had that in-person conversation requesting the letter, how they prefer to receive this form. So it's possible that they are fine with you sharing it here with them, where you're going to share it and then type in their name. It's possible that they're going to ask that you print it out and give it to them in a hard copy when that can be done if we're meeting in person for school, or they may ask you to download it and send it as an attachment to an email. So make sure you have that worked out with your teacher or counselor prior. So switching over to the counselor letter request for a letter of recommendation. If you're applying via the Common Application, and University of Colorado Boulder is a great example of this, they only need a letter from a teacher. However, they only accept the Common Application, and there is a form titled the Secondary School Report that counselors must complete in order for us to send your transcript and for your college application to be complete. So how you're going to fill this out here is you'll write the college name, so there's CU Boulder. Yes, you are applying via the Common Application. No, a letter is not required, but you are still going to submit this to your counselor because you need that secondary school report filled out. Once your counselors see that yes, you are applying somewhere via the Common Application, they know that that means you need that secondary school report, but it doesn't hurt to also ask in person or send an email saying, hey, do you mind completing this for me? You'll see we have another example here where a counselor recommendation is required for the University of Denver, but what's required is either a form, a NACAC form, or a letter. It's not all three, it's just one of those. So that's something where you'll want to sit down and have a conversation with your counselor, or at least just make sure that they're aware that it's a choice of those. So the more details you can provide in this column here, the better chance you're going to have that your teachers and counselors complete your recommendation correctly. If you are applying to Common Application and do not need any counselor letters, then you may just fill out this form and submit it to your counselor. You do not necessarily need to do the remainder. If you do require a letter or something like the NACAC form from your counselor, then you will need to submit the remainder of this. And you'll see that the teacher and counselor forms are different, so make sure that you complete both or one or the other, depending on what you need for your specific applications. So that's a quick overview of the letter of recommendation process. Please, please, please make sure you are reading all elements of this folder before you go on and request any letters of recommendation. We also ask that you do not request letters of recommendation until school begins. Going back into our required and supplemental elements, the other piece that's in here is how to request a transcript of Cherokee Trail. This process has changed drastically for this school year due to the pandemic, and so we ask that you have some grace with us. We are doing the best we can to make the process as easy and user-friendly as possible. We are actually still figuring it out, but it will be set and ready to go prior to school beginning. So I'm going to walk you through some of it right now, keeping in mind that we won't be able to actually see everything in this video right now because there are several people who are working on this to get it ready to go for you once school starts. So first of all, every transcript being sent is $5 per transcript. However, your first transcript you have sent is free. As of right now, the process to request that first free transcript is there will be a separate form you will complete, and the link to that will be available beginning either the week of August 10th or the week of August 17th, and we will communicate all of this information as soon as we have everything ready to go. So moving on, as we follow through this process, it's very important that you follow these steps exactly. And I'm going to walk you through all of this because this is probably the most confusing process, but also potentially the most important because you need to make sure those transcripts get sent. It's also a new process for us that we are developing due to COVID and the pandemic. So please bear with us as there's many people who are working on getting this set up to be as user-friendly as possible for students and families. So the first thing you'll see is it's very important to make sure that your Naviance account is set up as we walked through at the start of this lesson with the video that shows you how to set that up. If you do not have that done, we cannot send your transcripts, and it will cause a lot of delays in getting your transcripts to your schools on time. A little side note here, if you're applying to any application other than the Common Application, you will choose Direct to Institution when setting up your Naviance account. Then the next step you'll see here, if you are applying via the Common Application, you must match your Common App account with your Naviance account prior to requesting your transcript. If you do not do that, once again, there will be delays. And as we just discussed, the process of first determining if you need a letter of recommendation and then how to request that letter of recommendation, you need to make sure that that's requested 4 weeks prior. You also need to check in with your teacher or counselor to make sure that their letter is actually uploaded into Naviance prior to submitting any requests for your transcripts. If those letters are not in Naviance, your transcripts cannot and will not be sent. The system of Naviance literally will not let us send them if those letters are not in there. Then when we get to step number 4, this is the actual process of requesting your transcript. So everything prior is just making sure that you have everything set up and you're ready to go so that we can submit those transcripts and they will go through properly for you. Starting at step number 4, this is where you will submit your payment. And I'm going to jump down here right now to this COVID-19 note that to keep everyone safe, both our staff and postgrad as well as our students, it's our hope that we can do as many payments via RevTrak as possible so that we are not passing any paper money back and forth. However, we understand that not everyone may be set up to do this, so as long as we are meeting in person for school, we can accept payment via cash or check, or we also have a credit card swiper. But in that case, hopefully you can then use it through RevTrak. When we are not meeting in person, if we go remote, all payments have to be submitted via RevTrak since we won't be there in person to collect payment. And you'll see that part of the process is actually uploading a receipt. So if you do pay by cash or check, you'll receive a receipt where you can then take a picture of that to upload it into the transcript request. So jumping back up here to number 4, it is very important to understand this step is only submitting payment. The transcript request process is now a 2-step process. Both steps must be completed fully. If one or the other is not completed and not completed in the correct order, we will not and cannot send your transcripts. So you're going to start with payment, and you're going to go to the RevTrak account that you have on file and pay for however many transcripts you need. So if you're doing your first submission of transcripts and you're applying to 4 schools, remember that first one is free. So you're actually only going to be paying for 3 transcripts. So you're going to submit $15. If maybe later in the school year you decide to add some more, since you've already used that free one, you're then going to be paying for, say, 2 here. So you're going to submit a payment of $10. Now, at the time of this recording, unfortunately, we do not have RevTrak fully set up yet, but I am going to show you where in RevTrak you will go. So that link that I just clicked on, this is in Schoology, will take you directly to it, or you can always go to the Cherokee Trail homepage and choose payments from the homepage. So once you are here, there will actually be 2 separate places where you can access this. The first is through the Postgrad tile, and we are not set up here quite yet. See, it's not set up yet, but you can go and see that that's where it will be, is where it says Senior Only Transcripts. Or you can also access it through Transcripts. And as of right now, we do have this live and active for our alumni transcripts, which is what this is right now that you're looking at. But we will have soon on there also transcripts for seniors. So it does not matter where you access it. We have it in both places just to hopefully keep it as easy and user-friendly for you as possible. Once you are in RevTrak, you are then going to first submit your payment. And then you may need to make sure that you save your receipt. You can either take a screenshot of it or you may save it as a PDF. But you will need this proof of payment to then complete the actual process of requesting your transcript. So in RevTrak, you are only paying. The other thing that's very important, and I'm sorry that we don't have this set up for you to see, but when you are in RevTrak, and completing that form, you will see your form's going to look something like this. It'll be a little bit different, but it's going to look something like this. And at the bottom here, you're going to be asked to list out the institutions that you are paying for transcripts for. So if we're using those same 4 right here, you're not going to put UNC because you're getting that one free. You're going to type in CU Boulder, CU Denver, and CSU. And that's going to be typed into the institution names. The reason that's very important is you then are going to submit a second form. And that second form you'll have a link to from this RevTrak page after you pay. And in that form, you're going to once again type in the schools that you would like your transcript sent to. If the schools listed in RevTrak do not list the schools do not match the schools listed in that form, then we won't be able to send your transcripts because we won't have clarity on what has been paid for and what has not. So it's really important that those 2 match at any time that you're requesting transcripts. So once you've downloaded or taken a screenshot of your receipt, you're then going to have access to a form through RevTrak that will take you to a second form where you are going to then actually request your transcripts. And the reason this is a two-step process is unfortunately RevTrack just isn't set up to receive all of the information that we need in order to properly process your transcript. So we apologize for that being cumbersome, but really we needed to make sure that students could access this if we were remote, and that we were doing everything to keep everyone as safe as possible in this process. So we're now at step number 6, and you'll see that here it says this is only requesting your transcripts now. So after you have that receipt downloaded from paying, you're going to access the request form that will be available via RevTrack, and you'll complete some information, and there you will select the schools that you want your transcripts sent to, and then there will be a space where it asks you to upload your receipt. So jumping back down to this COVID-19 note, if you do pay cash or check, you'll get a paper receipt that you can then take a picture of and upload the receipt that way. If it's students completing it and you don't have a phone, we will be able to help you with that upload in the post-grad office. So that wraps up our information about how to request a transcript. The most important pieces are that everything is completed sequentially, and that all of these steps are completed prior to even going to the request process. We are here to help you. We also may find that there are some systems that work better once we jump into this, and we will communicate that as needed. But you may always reach out to the post-grad department, or students may always stop by when attending school in person, or contact us via email if you have questions about this process. So as we continue on into our resources, you will see that the remainder of these resources are all up to you if you want to look through them or not. So if you see something here that may be beneficial or helpful to you, please go ahead and go into those folders. Also knowing that we'll continue to build out these folders once school begins and throughout the school year, as different organizations send us information like scholarships or different resources for our students from diverse backgrounds. One thing I do want to note is if you receive free and reduced lunch, please make sure you're checking out this folder for a little bit more information on the transcript request process, because we do help out with the payment of that financially if you receive free and reduced lunch, as well as helping out with some college application fees. So I'm going to quickly go into the resources specific to COVID-19 to show that in here is our list of test optional colleges and universities. These are all some great websites that are keeping things up to date as far as what different colleges are doing, if they're offering visits in person, if they're offering virtual visits, if they're test optional. So please explore these. But I do want to show you the test optional page at fairtest.org, where you can see a list of all of the different schools who are currently test optional. Some of these are test optional permanently, others it will just be for this admission cycle for the class of 2021. And then the final thing I'm going to show you is we will update this as best we can, but we have on here our virtual college fairs. So there is one coming up August 11th through 13th. And then we will have another virtual college fair that's hosted by the state of Colorado, that's in place of the district college fair we usually have. And that will be in October. And once that is set up and ready to go, we'll have that linked in here as well. And then the last piece of information that I want to share, if you've made it this far, is on October 13th, 2020 of this year, all of our institutions in Colorado will have a free application day. So if you're applying to any schools in state, or if you're applying only in state, make sure that you're ready to go with that on October 13th. You do not necessarily have to have letters of recommendation. You don't have to have transcripts submitted by then. You simply need to actually submit your application on that date to the school, and then those supplementary information can come at a later date. So as we conclude, just a reminder that we will be having an application workshop on August 6th, which is Thursday. There is a link to sign up for that, and that will just be where counselors are available to answer any additional questions you might have after going through this entire video. And if you're not quite ready for that yet, that's okay. When we are back in school together, whether it's remote or in person, whichever form we are in, counselors are available to have a senior conference with you. We will also be presenting this information either through senior English classes or maybe from a remote setting and going over it again with all of the seniors. So if you're not quite ready to dive into this yet, that's absolutely okay. We want to meet you where you are at, and your individual counselor is here to support you through the entire process. So we look forward to seeing you again. We're excited to work with you your senior year, and make sure that you are just always doing your best in this and in all of school.